Again, we closed the chapter last night on Georgia Tech, obviously moving on to the next game. But it was a nice win by our guys. Not a surprising win. I think a lot of people were shocked, like, oh my gosh, what you did. We got a good football team, here in Pittsburgh. It didn't shock me the way our kids played, how hard they played, how physical they played. It was a tough physical game. We talk about effort and toughness. Our guys maximized that Saturday like we needed to, like we have in the past. And Pitt's a hard team to beat. I think there's one team that beat us this year. You guys know a couple weeks ago. But other than that, I'd like to sit here and say we're a 10-1 football team coming into this because we didn't finish a couple games the way we needed to, and for whatever reason, young, whatever, you guys can point to whatever you want to, but still a lot of stuff to clean up from the game Saturday that we'd like to do better. Again, that's a well-coached team, and obviously, a talented football team that'll give Georgia all they want this weekend. So then we move on to Miami. So again, another really good team. A team that is as talented as anybody in the country. Obviously, they opened up the season and beat Notre Dame, so we know what that looks like because you guys saw that live here. So anybody that's beat Notre Dame, I think you got high expectations and respect for. Mario Cristobal does a great job. Offensively, they're talented. They got former transfer quarterback Carson Beck that makes all the throws. He's smart. They put him in good positions to be successful offensively. Shannon Dawson's the offensive coordinator, and Malachi Tony, I think everybody knows who he is. If you watch any games this year, he's a talented freshman that they move all over the place. That makes a ton of plays. He can run it, he can catch it, and he's got wiggle. He's going to be a punt returner, and he can throw it too. So he's a former high school quarterback as well. So he's got a great arm. So they'll trick it up, and then defensively. There again is maybe the most talented front four we've seen, and that's including obviously Notre Dame. So there, Reuben Bain on one side, Messidor on the other side. Messidor played at West Virginia, transferred to Miami. We recruited him out of high school. He visited here from Canada, but they got two edge guys and two inside guys are as good as you're gonna face. Period. So we'll have to have a great game plan offensively and try to neutralize the talent they have on that football team. So questions.
You said some people might have been surprised by the outcome on Saturday, but you weren't. Not just the outcome, but the way you started, really just kind of dominating on both sides the first 20 minutes. Did that maybe surprise you a little bit, that you guys were able to be that much in control for the first 20 minutes?
What surprised me is we didn't do it for 4 quarters. That's what bothers you as a coach. Is like, okay, if you can do that in the first couple series. Our defense was outstanding, and obviously they had to get into a pass mode. We didn't work as much pass and all the different things they did out of the passing game. Focus going in was to stop the run. But the first 4 series defensively was dominating, which gave our offense some short fields, and offense executed. I think in the second half offense we came out and maybe tried to look for things that weren't there and just try to extend plays when we should be just doing the same thing you did in the first half. Do it in the second half. Don't change your mindset. I think sometimes overconfidence takes you over. As players, sometimes you think that you can just, hey, I'm going to just make some more plays and just take what they're giving you. I've said that for 11 years here. Talk about running, passing, throwing it deep or throwing it short. Take what they're giving you. Again, that's part of growing up, and we'll continue to get better there. But no shock.
Had 2 weeks ago, similar position, good opponent coming in, a lot of attention. Guys didn't respond maybe the right way you wanted to that game. What did you maybe learn from that experience, and does it help that it's sort of so fresh in the kids' minds that you're not worried about it happening again?
You know what? I think every week is different, Will. It's a different week, and I don't think the hype of the game or anything like that had anything to do with it. I think it comes down to execution and making plays and calling plays, the whole deal. It's all. It's everybody in this room when something like that happens, good or happens bad. But another noon game on ABC. Lewis Riddick's calling the game, so we're happy Pittman will be on the game. So I don't know if it has anything to do with it. As our guys learn, we'll find out. But I think it comes down to making plays on the field and calling and having a great game plan.
You've done some of it in training camp, but how much work during the regular season has Kendall Stanley gotten at guard, and what you see from him?
Yeah, in preseason we dabbled with putting him in there and doing it, so he's done a little bit of both, and I thought he did a really good job with his really first start, I believe, at that guard spot. So he's versatile, he's smart, and he's aggressive. So I was happy with what Kendall did at the left guard spot.
With Jeff back in there starting at left tackle, I mean, how would you just assess both the left tackle and left guard in that game?
They were solid. I mean, we've had a rotating door at that left side of the line. I don't know if there's something with the left side last year, this year, where it's the left side, and we got to keep those guys healthy, and we got a lot of confidence in both those guys over there. I think one of the early sacks we took, Percy really had great pass set, and again Mason's got to step up in the pocket. He took off to the left, ran right into where Percy was blocking, but he's got to step up in the pocket. So again, you look at the sacks that we gave up, 1 on the running back, 3 on the O-line, and 2 on the quarterback. Really just the assessment of those sacks that we gave up, and it'll be the same case this week if we don't do the little things right with this front four.
How often has Brayen has he dropped into coverage this season?
Well, he's a linebacker, so he drops into coverage all the time. I mean, he's a linebacker, so anytime it's a drop back pass and he's not blitzing, he's in coverage. That was a major play in the game, executed exactly the way you're supposed to do it, and again a little tweaking by our defense staff, really on Thursday or Friday, just doing the right things and putting our kids in position to make plays. So.
When I talked to him on media day, I kind of asked him, because I talked to Brian Manalock, and he said he thought Brayen had a bit of a chip on his shoulder because Kyle and Rasheem were getting all the attention coming into the season, and I asked Brayen, he said he's so happy for those guys that it makes him feel like he has to level his game up to be able to play with them. So how good was it to just see him have a huge play like that?
I mean, again, I can't help what the media says. I know we got 3 dudes playing linebacker, and they're all good. And it's a matter of just making your plays when they come to you, and that's all you can do as a linebacker or a defensive end, make the plays that come to you. But Braylon's been great all year. I mean, he's in my opinion, an all-conference linebacker, not just because of that pick. He could have not had that 100-yard return, which I think someone said. I think Mike told me it's the first time since 1908, 100-yard, longest one we've had. So it's a special play. It was an explosive play. That guy can run, and he's got great hands. And should have had another pick at Stanford, if you guys recall the first series of the game. But he, it was an easy one he could have caught, but was looking to run. But he's a great player. And, I don't worry about what everybody's, who's talking about who. But he's a good football player.
I was going to ask you about that play too. I was curious because in that Delta package, you like to bring pressure, you like to show pressure, and then drop out of it. With Georgia Tech, with the way you guys were aligned there, would Georgia Tech have thought your tendency was for Brayen to blitz on that play? Is that what the tendency would have told them?
I would say the tendency, but not all the time. I mean, I don't know what their stats look like, but I know what we do in practice and what you get to call, what you don't get to call, what checks we make on defense. Because he might have been supposed to blitz that play, but did we check something? That's what nobody knows. So we got different ways of getting stuff based on backfield sets, tight ends, formations, based on what we think they like to do. It comes down to the game plan, right? You don't treat everything the same, right? They got tendencies too, so we play off of people's tendencies.
We talked to Mason a couple weeks ago and just asked him about maybe why he thought he was under-recruited in Ohio in high school. And with Boosie Turner, maybe a little apples to oranges. I think he had some more Power 4 attention, but certainly wasn't at the top of anyone's recruiting list coming out of Florida. I'm curious just what you recall from his recruitment, him getting on your radar, and just what attracted you to him on the recruiting trail?
What attracted us is just his athletic ability. I mean, again, there's a lot of good skilled guys across the country. Some people miss, some people don't. But obviously, great recruiting evaluation does nothing. Nothing stands out. I mean, just doing your evaluation and knowing that you got a guy that can run the football, he can catch it out of the backfield, and he's pretty fast. I mean, I think he was 21 miles an hour, probably on that run with the GPSs on game day. I can probably see it pop up on the TV there. There's right there. What's it? 0.97 top speeds. So it gives you a little idea of the speed. I don't know if you guys ever noticed those speeds there, but he was moving, and again, just something we saw on tape. I mean, it's call it evaluation, and no different than Mason or tailbacks or Sean Lee, just football players.
You had Cruz back for the first time in a couple of weeks after coming back from that injury. Had some pretty physical plays out there. I mean, just how much of a tone setter is he out there defensively for you guys?
He's a tone setter. He's a little rusty in coverage at times. The umpire did a great job picking him that one time, but he knocked the umpire over on a touchdown pass. I don't think it's going to be a touchdown pass if he doesn't get in our way. I mean, I hope umpires get out of the way so you can do your job, not just stand there watching the game. You got a good ticket, but they got to get up and out of the way. But Cruz is a tone setter. I mean, he's a football player, and he'll be better this week than he was last week.
Pat, I know when we talked to you a couple weeks ago about the tiebreaker, you said, hey, look, we have a thing on the board and it's got all the permutations or whatever. Do you pay, do you pay any, will that be shown anywhere in this facility? Like what has to happen for you guys to make the ACC championship game?
Nothing matters except the win on Saturday. Nothing matters. I mean, we can't control what other people do. We could have controlled it earlier in the year, in one of our other ACC games, but all we can do is control and focus on one thing. We start worrying about other things out there, it doesn't matter. So it won't be talked about, it won't be addressed, it'll be about winning a football game.
In a way then, does it make it better that sort of the other games that might factor into whatever happens for you guys post Saturday are later in the day?
I didn't even know they were later in the day. They could, it wouldn't matter if they play at noon like we do or play at 10 p.m. We just got to take care of business. That's what it comes down to.
You said after the game that you were just happy, given the way that your guys had worked, that they were able to earn a win like that. I guess just as a coach, when you maybe have opportunities to get a big win and you don't come through in those moments, how rewarding is it to then follow it up with a win as big as we had on Saturday?
It's really rewarding. I mean, you think about just the belief in this room, of knowing that we can do whatever we want to as long as we execute, take care of the details. I mean, probably the biggest thing is we protected the ball. I mean, when you don't turn the ball over and you end up being +2 on the road in that environment, I mean, that wins you football games. And so it comes down to execution. And if you protect the ball, you'll have a chance to win every game. Period. And that's what we did on Saturday, which was most impressive. But it's obviously satisfying for our guys in this room. I'm happy for the guys in this room because they needed that. They worked hard last week to get it, played their tails off on Saturday.
When you watch the film on the pair of field goals that Sam missed approaching halftime, did it strike you more as just nerves in that situation, or was there anything procedural approach technique-wise there?
Nothing procedurally. I mean, I think, you can look at the laces, you can look at maybe high snap or whatever it may be, but, it doesn't matter. Those are all good excuses. Our job is to put the ball, if you're the kicker, through the uprights. And that was obviously disappointing. Even our punt game was disappointing. When you look at some of probably the most disappointing things is we kicked 2 out of the end zone when we're backed up. We don't put the ball where we want it. We don't hit bombs when you can hit a bomb, and then when you got to be more precise with where that ball lands. In the punt game, you put it in the end zone, and we don't get a chance to down it inside the 10-yard line, which is our goal when we are doing some of those pooch punt situations. So, but go back to Sam. Maybe we expect there was nothing procedurally that caused us to miss those field goals. So, is it a mental part of it? Is it a physical part of it? Is it the environment part of it? I don't know.
It looked like he got hit on the leg on the first attempt. Was he in pain?
I don't know. I don't think so. It was, not enough that he didn't go out and try to kick the second one. If he did, you can lay down on the ground. I'll come out there and check and make sure you're okay, and we'll put Junko in the game.
Pat, you were pretty blunt in your assessment, your own assessment of the fake punt call on Saturday night. Kind of taking responsibility. When you watch that back in here on Sundays, how does when you look back at it on tape, well, maybe if we blocked it up right, we would have had a chance, or is it like
we don't fall down? We're probably going to take the corner. Okay,
Right.
So if you watch it close enough, we're going to get around the corner. But again, I'm always going to take responsibility. When we lose a game, I take full responsibility for a loss, even though I don't make a tackle or I don't run or catch a ball. So, I made the call with Coach Bro together, like we do everything. If he didn't want to run it, I ain't going to run it. He's got to feel good about it. I got to feel good about it in the situation, and we're playing to win. We're going to be aggressive. It's no different than throwing the ball and taking a shot, whatever it is, or you know, that blitz, you know, that we ran down on the goal line and Lovelace goes 100, if you know, that could have been a touchdown, and you guys would be sitting there second guessing that. So, again, I'll take responsibility. If it stinks and it doesn't work, it's my fault, period. And I got no problem with that. That's why they call me the head coach. But I don't second guess it. Like, you know, I said it, you know, if it works, it's great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And, you know, obviously I wish it would have been successful, but.
What's the, I kind of, what I was kind of getting at was more like the response of the kids. When you guys watch that back on tape, are they like, oh, coach, we had it there for you? Or do they, I mean, do they sort of embrace that sort of aggressive
They wouldn't want to
mindset?
run a fake all season. So, you know, they want to play too. They want to go make plays. So it's just one of those, you know, ones that didn't work. But they get it. They understand. You know, we're making calls and we're trying to win. So they know I'm not sabotaging the special teams unit. They know I'm not trying to throw the game. I didn't have a bet on the game. They know we're all trying to win, and it comes down to sometimes calls. It comes down to execution. Sometimes it comes down to both. And that's the game of football.
You know, against Notre Dame, you talked about how like they had a decided advantage in the trenches. Here you're talking about Miami and saying that they're even better maybe up front defensively.
Mhm.
How do you, you know, what gives you confidence that your line will be more up to the task this time than they were a couple weeks ago?
You know, comes down to execution and great play calling. And, you know, that game could have gone a whole different way. I mean, you think about just that first series, how we went down the field. I mean, it comes down to confidence, it comes down to momentum. So it's not a matter of, you know, the Jimmies and the Joes. It's a matter of, you know, just going out and executing. I don't care who, you know, put the 1974 Dallas Cowboys out there, you know, with Tom Landry. Like, you know, we can execute. If we execute, make plays, then you have a chance to move the ball. Both sides, you got a chance to be successful, period. And I got a lot of faith in the guys in this room that can go out and win a football game any weekend against anybody.
The defense has been pretty good at taking away the ball this year, but past 2 weeks, obviously Carr and King have both entered the games, and neither of them have thrown very many interceptions. I think King maybe had 2 for the other night. Why do you think you guys have been able to pick those guys like that off?
Yeah, we've been pretty good at, you know, I think the last 3 weeks we've had, you know, touchdowns on defense, right? You know, you go back to Virginia a couple years ago, the first 2 plays of the game, I think 17 seconds off the clock, we got 2 pick sixes. So that's kind of what we do. I mean, our job on defense is not only to stop them, but to make plays and get the ball back to our offense or score ourselves. It's kind of what we do. It's part of our package. It's part of what we do. We try to confuse the quarterback and try to get him to throw to us. I mean, that Kavir interception was big time. You know, shoot, the one against Notre Dame was big time. You know, wish we'd have gotten the darn end zone. Just got 3 points out of it. So, you know, I guess we got more score drills with our DBs because our linebackers got that figured out. But, you know, it's kind of what we do.
This senior class, I mean, you've got Javon, who was part of that ACC championship team in 2021. Then you got guys like Dez or Deuce or Kavir who joined a little bit later in the process. I mean, can you just reflect on what coaching this senior class has been like for you?
Yeah, you know, coaching this entire team this year has been it's just, you know, pure joy. Like I said, they're just coachable. They listen to you, they get it. And you know, every team's a little bit different, but this group is special. And again, it's led by those seniors. I mean, these older guys that sit in the front rows of this room are the main guys. And you know, I think your team goes as your seniors and your leadership guys go in this room. And you know what happens in those locker rooms. You know, the cohesion that that senior group has brought to this football team is, you know, has been, you know, one of the best I've been around. And I've been around some pretty good ones too. So, you know, the senior class, it'll be an emotional morning, evening, Friday night, Saturday morning, and could be more grateful for the work, effort that those guys have put into this game.
It was one of the best games in terms of generating pressure on the quarterback, which certainly impacted some of those throws from King on those interceptions. But what just worked for you guys defensively, and how do you rekindle that going into Miami against a good O-line?
You're talking pressure last week?
Pressure on the quarterback, yeah.
Did we have pressure on the quarterback last week? Wasn't as good as I'd like to be. Again, you know, the second half we weren't as good as I'd like to be. We got to get more pressure than what we saw Saturday. I mean, you know, obviously forced an interception. Kyle Lewis, great play there, but we got to be more. You know, we got to be better than what we were last week because this team can throw the ball as well as run the football, and obviously Georgia Tech could too. So, but you know, we saw more drop back game. That I wish we had put more pressure on the quarterback than what we did. So, we got to clean up a lot of details and have a great game plan.
Kyle had that pressure, like you mentioned, on the interception. He also had a sack. But that was actually his first sack since the Duquesne game.
It was?
Yeah, it was. He set a high bar last year. How do you feel like he's been this season? I mean, you know, the numbers aren't quite what they were a year ago. How's his play been?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably my biggest worry going into the season is he had so much success in those splash plays, you want to call them, and then all of a sudden, sometimes they come, sometimes they don't. You have to have opportunities. He hasn't missed too many opportunities when he's had the opportunities to get there. Whether the ball's thrown, they throw it quick, we blitz him, it's 3-step. He's a linebacker. Let's not forget he's not rushing the he's not a defensive end. He's not rushing the quarterback every snap. So, sometimes you press, and I think there's times where he's pressed and trying to make big plays when he just needs to do his job, and that's what I've stressed. It doesn't matter. Those NFL scouts are going to watch your tape, and they're going to find out if you did things right or you're doing it wrong. You're trying to do your own thing. So, Kyle's been great all year, and I don't care what his stats look like. I care about what his pluses and minuses on that grade sheet at the end of the day are.
Couple more.
When you're in a situation like the last few possessions of that game on Saturday, obviously tempo is a big part of your offense, but what's your approach and Cade's approach and the conversations you've had with him about balancing doing what you do and also trying to run as much of the clock as you can?
Yeah, I mean, we have not been as fast as people might think we are. There's the illusion we're fast, and we're trying to get ourselves into good place, which we did. I don't know what our really fast tempo has been this year percentage-wise compared to last year. I didn't go back and look at it, but we're trying to be in good place. And I don't care if we go fast, if we go slow. I want production. I like those 28 points. I don't care how you do it, and I never want to handcuff, and I never have. I know you guys sometimes think I handcuff because I'm a defensive guy. I've had that question from somebody else here earlier today. I'm not slowing an offense down because I think once you get out of rhythm, then you got problems, and it's my fault because I told them to slow down and not do what they're supposed to do. We didn't go to that second half saying let's slow down and let's milk that clock. Until we get in that 4-minute situation at the end when there's 2 minutes left on the clock. Then when we're a 4-minute offense, then that's when we expect to snap that ball, 1 second, 2 seconds on the clock. But other than that, prior to that, let's go make plays.
Pat, when you
you don't want to slow down.
Chris, do you have a follow-up? I apologize.
No.
Okay.
Last one.
When you promoted Mason, you mentioned Kenny sort of, you had a feeling that was sort of similar to when Kenny started to play when he was a freshman. Kenny ended that year with a pretty memorable game against a really good Miami team that had big aspirations. Is that, I guess, how have you seen, has Mason sort of, how have you seen Mason meet the moment? And then will you do anything on this week to sort of, hey guys, look, 8 years ago, this team came in here and we had a freshman quarterback and we kind of took care of business?
No, it's like playing games, like it doesn't matter what happened back in, what year was that?
It was 17.
2017.
Those kids, I know, I'm sitting there thinking those kids were like in elementary school back then. The guys
They're in elementary school. They don't really care, about the history unless we bring an honorary captain in and they get to watch him play. And I don't think Kenny's available this weekend to bring him in and tell him what happened that day. That's a different offense that we played with that year with Kenny, and that was a different Miami team. It's a different Pitt team. It's different than 22 when we played them down there. I think it was the last time we played them down there in Miami. So neither one of those games will play any part in this game this weekend. It's all totally different. I mean, Mario's done a heck of a job down there, retooling what they are. He's built that thing from, he's an old lineman at heart, and he's built that thing with the offensive and defensive lines. He knows how important the front is, and they are strong there. It doesn't matter what happened in 17 or 22. It'll be what happens in 25. We got to go out and play.
Do you have a timeline on Trey Bukowski's return?
No, wish I did.
Next question.